Hi, Chris. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, that's weird. It usually doesn't start in mute. I got nothing done this
I got to check my speakers. I'm not hearing anything here. Just 1 second. Somebody turned the speakers off. All right. How about now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent. Now I can hear you too. Okay.
I'm sorry, I got nothing done this week. Nothing actually showed up on Canvas again. You know, I remember you talking about it, but nothing showed up until it had to be afternoon because last time I checked my messages in Canvas was about noon.
Yeah, no, I totally I spaced that one. I forgot to post until I got in Monday. Yeah, yesterday morning. I realized I hadn't posted what I told you guys I was going to post last week. So yeah, it's no big deal. I set the due date to basically next Tuesday, our last class. So
yeah, I just went down to the school and I was talking to Zainab about, some of the frustrations I'm coming up with Canvas.
Uh-huh.
This is the first time that you've ever just been late, but
yeah,
I've had a lot of things from my other 3 classes that keep been showing up, later than the teachers say they put it up.
Oh, huh. Okay.
But I had a whole bunch of trouble with everything at the end of last week. Things I couldn't turn in because, I ended up having a bad cookie in my browser.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, apparently, at least this is what I'd gotten a hold of one of my girlfriends who does computer work, and and she said, "Oh yeah, go through and delete your cookies," because I told her what was going on. And I did that, and lo and behold, stuff started working.
Huh. Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of nasty malware out there these days that screws up your system. Yeah, and I also I'll tell the class, but I had intended to post the video of class last week, but the next day when I tried to convert it, it blew up on me and would not convert to a video file. So I wasn't able to post the video. So hopefully we're going to do a few more time value of money exercises in class tonight. And I'm recording. So hopefully this time I'll be able to post it if people want to review too. So, yeah.
Other than that, did you have a good holiday?
Yeah, it was good. I made a long road trip over to Eastern Washington to see the Apple Cup last week. Well, see the Apple Cup and visit some family members over there. And so it was fun. It was fun. Pullman was crazy, but it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, it was okay. I've been, mostly there's been a lot of little frustrations about school and stuff. And, now I'm starting to get afraid of, okay, what am I going to do when I get out of here? But that's mostly because I get relatives ask me that stuff. And the rest of the time I'm like, I'm getting a degree in tribal governance. I'm a Native American. Of course I'll be able to get in with an Alaskan corporation or something.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of tribal organizations out there,
Yeah.
How much longer do you have?
Yeah, just till June.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you're doing 499A and B, winter and spring?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It tends to wash over me, and especially right now because I'm doing 18, they just tend to wash over me until they just show up the next quarter.
Right. Yeah, you might want to meet with your advisor just because I know that they're, after this class, Have you taken 420, TGBM 420, entrepreneurship yet?
I might have.
Okay, I think.
It sounds familiar.
Chris, we're hoping that you leave the program with with the knowledge of these classes. So I'm hoping that you have some recollection of the information we provide you here. But
Yeah, I mean, I've taken so many classes about entrepreneurship. I'm not sure if any of them actually were.
Oh yeah. Well, there are. I'm kidding you, but there are two. There's a lower level. There's like a BUAD, small business entrepreneurs, like BUAD 140, which I don't even know if they're still offering. And then there's the TGBM 420, which is entrepreneurship. It usually comes right after this class. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the reason I say you might want to talk with an advisor is just because there are several of those classes right at the end that have to be taken sequentially. Unless there's a requirement waived. And so you just want to make sure you get your last few quarters lined up to get the prerequisites taken care of. So anyways. Man, I don't know. End of quarter attendance is just going downhill here. I don't know what to say. Hi, George. Are you there? You're not there in video, at least, but we'll give them a few more minutes, and then we'll see what we're going to do.
Yeah, give me a minute to go run and get some sandpaper.
Oh, yeah. No rush. You doing your nails?
No, actually, I have like big piece of foam with several grits of sandpaper attached to it for those.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Titan.
Steve?
Yes.
Hey, this is George. I just dialed in from my phone. I'm on my way out to our lab.
Okay.
I'll be logging in my computer here soon.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm gonna give folks a few more minutes, and then we'll see. I can't have an abbreviated last real class session since this is our last real class session. Next week is just a test. Just a test.
suppose I can reveal, since I think we're the only people around, and I suppose George he can be trusted even if he is still there. This mysterious project I've been working on, I always have to keep my hands occupied or I don't retain anything.
Uh-huh.
But the project I've been working on has been prototypes for the Commodore Cannabis Weed Tool.
What is that tool? What does that tool do?
Well, this end is a bowl scraper.
Oh, wow.
With a little bit of a spoon on it for actually scooping flour or ground flour.
Wow.
Whereas this end, that's a dab spoon.
Oh. Huh.
I don't even like dabs, but
Yeah.
enough people do that I'm like, okay, there's an opportunity.
Wow.
My
Nice.
my other prototype or my other finished prototype is at a metal shop in Kent right now, getting a estimate of how much it'll cost to do an initial production run.
Uh-huh. Nice. Nice.
A little scary, but at the same time exciting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it certainly seems to be a booming industry here in Washington, and it's only expanding to other states. So, yeah, I think that there's probably going to be some good opportunities there. I think there are going to be opportunities in that field where people wouldn't necessarily have anticipated them too. Just like literally being service providers of some kind or the other to any of those players in that field. But yeah, that's cool. I would be interested to hear how that goes.
Yeah. I'll try to remember to keep you apprised.
Yeah. So,
If nothing else, every stoner who's seen it has said they would buy it if it were available.
Oh, yeah? Well, there you go. It's good to know your customers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially one of my girlfriends who, right now I'm working on the one that was closest to the design she liked the best.
Yeah.
It was one of my earlier prototypes, and it actually has a little blade for cutting open switches.
Huh. Wow.
It's all stuff that I don't. The big spoon end, yeah, I'll use that end, but everything else is, that's consumer demand as opposed to anything I really care for.
Right. Hey, James, how's it going?
It's going good. Probably won't be in class for the rest of the quarter. My girl just got a medical assistant job, so she works till 6. I don't have a sitter for my son, so.
Okay. Well, so we only have class tonight, and then next week is the last test. So that's all you gotta be present for. So hopefully, so do you think you won't be able necessarily to be there at 5 next week then? For the last class? No?
My son gets out of daycare at 3, so then I don't have no one to watch him. So.
Okay. So we'll just we need to talk then to figure that out in the next couple days.
I can try to figure out a better solution. But.
Okay. Yeah. What's the best way to get a hold of you? Email, text?
Text message.
Okay. Can you give me your either?
Snapchat. You got Snapchat?
I do not have Snapchat. I do text though.
I just give you my number.
Yeah. Why don't you just maybe send it to me in a chat, and I'll text you tomorrow or the next day, and we'll figure something out for next week.
Okay.
I hope that we all didn't do something to scare the women folk off. I don't know why. It's just as they say sometimes, well, no, I'm not going to say it. That's really off. You know what they say when a bunch of guys get together, what those kind of fests are called, right? That's, yeah, I'm kidding. But yeah, so chat me your number, and then I'll just send you a text or something, and we'll figure it out. Since it is 5:15, I'm going to get started and just go through some things here. As I was telling you guys, so this is the last official class, right? Next week, all we're doing is taking tests. And so what we're going to do tonight, the plan for what we're going to do tonight is just do a few more of the time value money exercises. James, you weren't here last week. I don't know if George was here last week. No? Okay. So we're going to do some in-class exercises on time value money, which is all out of Chapter 5. And then there will be an assignment with time value money exercises for next week also. So, and it's something just like those financial ratios that you really have to just sort of work on until you get comfortable with it. And so that's, there are, let me see here. I have one. So there's been one assignment, excuse me, from last week. Oh, yeah. And again, I apologize. I was talking with Chris about this earlier. I completely spaced posting the assignment last week after class. I didn't see it until yesterday, literally. So the time value money assignment that was due for class tonight is you have until next Tuesday, basically until the test next Tuesday to complete that. So that's one assignment that you can practice the time value money. We're going to be working on these ones in class, and then there will be one more time value money assignment. And I even think I'm going to give some extra credit this week for one time value money assignment, and then also one more financial ratio calculation assignment, because those are the two big components, at least as far as numbers go, that we've addressed since the first test. And I know we had some of the financial ratios on the first test, but I want to make sure that you guys have a real good understanding of those and can just sort of whip those out in your sleep. And so some of those will also be on the test next week, but I'll have extra credit for both of those assignments. So if you want to earn some extra points and get practice before the test, which I highly recommend, I'll have those posted tomorrow, all those assignments. I'll write a note on the back of my hand so I remember this time. Excuse me. The other opportunity for extra credit that there is the course evaluation. So, every quarter you get to do a course evaluation. You can choose to do a course evaluation for your courses here at Northwest Indian College. And I always encourage my students to do it just because for me, it's a learning tool. If I get your honest feedback, whether it's positive or negative, then I can sort of digest that and figure out if I need to change something for the way I teach this course next quarter, or the way I just teach this course in general. So, and especially since this is a challenging course as it is, if you have any ideas or feedback that you think would make it easier, not easier necessarily, but I guess more simple to get to the information that we need to get to, or a different way of teaching it maybe, I'm always open to that. So under week 7 on Canvas, there is right at the bottom, the last 2 postings are course evaluation email, and that's just an email from our academic, I don't know what he's called, academic director or something, about how to get to the evaluation. And then you don't need to necessarily let me know when you've completed it, because he'll send me a report after the quarter is completed, or after the last class at least. And I basically will get shown who did not complete it. But I won't get shown any of the results or any of your responses until next quarter. So if there's any thought or concern that a negative evaluation might in some way affect your grade, it has no impact on your grade whatsoever. And again, I actually really appreciate constructive criticism, which sometimes can be negative, because that's the only way I can figure out that I'm doing something wrong at points. So please feel free, and and so you'll get extra credit for that if you do that. And again, it's just very helpful for me to get that feedback from my students through the quarter. So it's another extra credit that's will be available, and I'll post those other 2 extra credit assignments tomorrow, like I said. The other thing that I wanted to mention is, so everyone should, and actually I'm going to check here real quick, but everybody should be able to log in now to as of about a week and a half ago, to the Native Nations Institute Nation-Owned Enterprises module. Is anyone still having problems logging into that particular module? Looks like Chris, you're in. Let's see, George, you completed it. Yeah. So James, have you tried to log in yet? I'm just not.
No, I haven't. I thought we were going to do that in class. I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Okay. Oh, that's fine. So what I'll do is I'm going to just send you a quick email here and include just because we had some issues setting up some of the accounts initially, I'll include your username and a link to the site that'll get you right to the login site.
Yeah, just so when do we need to have that done by?
Next Tuesday, basically, because part of what's in that module will be on the test. So you definitely want to make sure that you get that completed by next Tuesday. Let's see.
And well, basically everything's due by next Tuesday.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Okay. Website. Oops. All right, I just emailed that to your student email address. Okay. So that's, and then we're going to cover a little bit of Chapter 6 tonight, time dependent, just because there's some good information about interest rates that I think would be beneficial for you to know, especially given that it looks like our interest rates are potentially going up. I mean, they have very little elsewhere to go at this point, but it seems that they've been picking up over the last month. So, and that impacts a lot of purchases for both businesses and individuals. So, cost of borrowing goes up. So, what I would like to do is if you go to week number 8, under Canvas, and you can open up both the blank time value of money calculation spreadsheet. You can open that in Excel, and also open up, one second here. Also open up in-class time value of money calcs 2. So that's just a Word document. If you can preview it, that's all you really need to do. You don't need to open the Word document if you don't want to. So what we're going to do here is we're going to sort of do these exercises game show style. So basically, there's 4 questions. I'll give you 5 minutes per question. So I'll give you 5 minutes, and then we'll go over the question. And just chat me, Zoom group or Zoom chat me your answer to the problems as we go through them. And then if you get them right, I'll give you extra credit. And then we'll go over each of the problems after the 5 minutes is up. So definitely have Excel open, and like I said, you can just view that other in-class time value of money calculations. So before we start this process out, does anybody have any questions they want to throw at me?
Which ones did you say to open up?
So the blank time value of money spreadsheet, which is at the top of week 8. And then below that, there should be one called in-class time value of money calcs 2.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. All right, so timer. All right, so again, I'm going to do this for 5 minutes. It's just practice, sort of practice for what you're going to be doing next Tuesday. Practice on time value money calculations. So let's do number 1, and I'll start. And then as soon as you get what you think is the right answer, private text me.
Hold on.
Yep.
I'm trying to set it up.
Or are you getting Excel open? All right, I'm going to start the timer now. Do 5 minutes on number 1. righty then. Anybody have an answer for me? I didn't get any answers yet. Oh my, you guys are worrying me. All right, throw some numbers at me. Any numbers? Or shall we just run through this first one? All right, I'm gonna.
I don't know. I don't even know what half this stuff means. I ended up trying to make it work, and all I can get is just under 40,000.
Okay, well, yeah, that was actually
39,529.
Oh no, actually, I did it wrong the first time, and that's the answer I got, Chris. So let me show you what we both did wrong the first time. Let me share my screen here. All right, so go here. All right, so the setup, and again, I really recommend using the spreadsheet, the blank spreadsheet, because it's already organized for you to, you know, put in the variables that you need to figure out another variable. Let me zoom it up a little bit here. Okay. So first of all, which of these functions are we going to be using to figure out the answer to question one? Future value, present value, rate, number of time periods, or payment? What are we looking
Future
for?
value?
What's that?
Future value?
Future value, yes. Yeah, future value. So we're going to be using this equal FV bracket. So that's how you start, you know, again, these are examples right here of how you start out what you type into a cell to get the equation. Again, you won't be able to use these cells that I'm highlighting here to run the equation in, because if you look up here at the top, it'll tell you what kind of cell or what format is the text cell. Whenever a cell is text, Excel just ignores everything in it and expects that you just want to display the text and you don't want Excel to figure anything out. If you type the same thing in a numeric cell, like currency or really currency, accounting, number, general, it will assume that you want it to calculate something. So here's how I organized it. Let me get rid of this first. I'll just show you. So if we're doing future value, type in equals, let me doing it backwards here. Let's look at this first. Let's see what this is asking. So this is a future value asking if you invest $500 per month in your IRA retirement. If you do this for 30 years and your IRA has an average annual rate of return of 6%, how much will you have when you retire, assuming you're retiring in 30 years? So these are the three pieces of information we need: $500 per month, 30 years, and 6%. If we have those three, then we can solve this thing. So then it's just a question of, after you've determined that you need to use the future value function, then you just need to plug these numbers into that function. So let's do that real quick here. I'm going to put, let's see, we're going to do a 500 payment. I'm going to line these out here. And then 30 years at an average annual rate of 6%. So this is the tricky thing about this one. I tell you, they're putting $500 a month in their IRA, but then I'm giving you years as the time period and an annual rate, which is an annual interest rate. And what we need to do, we have to put everything into a monthly. We have to convert all of our variables into a per month basis, because we're showing that there's $500 per month that you're putting in your IRA. So we got the negative 500. Again, negative amounts flow away from you. So that's negative 500 payment. Then we have 30 years. Well, if we have to do 30 years in months, then how many months is that going to be?
360.
360, right. 30 times 12 is 360. So it's 360 months, and we have an interest rate, an average annual interest rate of $6,000, or excuse me, 6%. And so this is what I did incorrectly the first time. I typed in 6%, and then I said, all right, let's calculate this. So let me show you here what happens. So again, we type in, this is the way to follow, this is the way that Excel prompts you to do these things. You type in the function equals FV and then your left bracket. And then it will prompt you down below here to put in the rate. When it's bolded, it wants a rate. And so since I already typed in the rate, all I have to do is click on the cell here, and it's going to put that in the rate. Then I have to type in comma so that it goes over to the next variable. And now it wants N per. So I'm going to click on N per, hit comma. Then it wants a payment. So I click on that cell, comma. And again, if any of these variables are in these square brackets, which I think there's a special name for them, but I just call them square brackets, you don't have to put any information in if you don't have it. So instead of typing in 0 for PV or type, we never enter type, I'm just going to hit enter. And it gives me this massive number. If you did this for 30 years, you'd have like, holy crap, $10 trillion. If you earn 6% a month, so this is what this is saying. If you earn 6% a month, or the equivalent of 72% a year, and you contributed $500 for 30 years, you'd have enough money to actually almost balance the U.S. budget deficit, which is about 16 trillion right now. That's a lot of money. So we sort of know that we screwed something up. And what I screwed up here was I put in an annual interest rate when it should be monthly interest rate. So if I put in equal, and I'm going to leave 6% in there, and then I'm going to put divided by 12, because that's how we transition or figure out a monthly interest rate based on a yearly quoted interest rate. And if I hit enter, then it gives me this monthly interest rate of 0.5% and a real number of $502,257.52. So if you did this for a full year, this is that's the amount, or excuse me, this for a full 30 years, that's the amount that you would have at the end of those 30 years. So that was the first part of the question. The second part was, what if you simply invested $6,000 once per year and everything else remained the same? Instead of the 6% interest rate, you did it for 30 years. The question is, are the first and second questions answers? It should be different. And if so, why? And let's see if they're different here. So I'm just going to leave this FV function over here, and I'm going to change the variables, which is another reason, again, why it's great to just link to cells when you're doing these functions, because then you can just change those cells, and this function will automatically update based on that. So we are doing $6,000 per year. And so this time, instead of using months, our N per is going to be in years, 30 years. And the rate is no longer a monthly interest rate, it's the yearly interest rate, because we're doing everything in years now. So that would be 6% straight up. And our ending figure there would be $474,349.12. So that's about $28,000 less than if he or she would have contributed $500 a month as opposed to $6,000 per year. Any idea why those numbers would be different? Why the first in this, why contributing $500 a month would give you more in the long run than $6,000 a year? You're contributing the same.
You're making money off the money that's being put in, whereas if it all goes in at the end of the year, you're not making money on the money that you're putting in progressively.
Yes. So pretty much the deal is here, if you're contributing $6,000 once a year, you're only compounding that one time. If you put in $500 a month for 30 years, you're compounding it 12 times every year. And so this is the impact of the compounding. When you compound more often, your savings or your investment is going to grow at a quicker rate. And so if we were to do something like, I'm actually curious here. So this is monthly compounding, the 502 here. These are both numbers, by the way. This is yearly compounding. Type is 474. I'm curious, some places do daily compounding. So let's see here. If we did, so I'm just curious what it's going to be if we did daily compounding. If we divided $6,000 by 365, and we had an n per, then a number of compounding periods would be equals 30 times 365. So there are 10,950 days in roughly, minus a few leaps here and there, in 30 years. And then the rate would have to be equal 6% divided by 365. Because this time we're moving everything to days. So if we want to figure out daily compounding, this is how we're going to do it. Then we have 504,875. So there's not a significant difference. I mean, it's $2,600 over 30 years between daily and monthly compounding, but there's a pretty significant difference between monthly and yearly compounding, $28,000. You know, that'll buy a nice Subaru. So this is just another good example or a good way to show how compounding can have a significant impact on your returns. So basically, the more compounding you do, the better. Or the more compounding your bank does, the better, I should say. Okay. So that's number one. Let's move on to number two here. Just one second here. Mallory, we're in week 7. No, I forget. Week 7. If you go into week 7, we're doing some in-class time value money exercises for extra credit. And so if you open the this is week 8. Getting all mixed up here. If you open up the 2 top links under resources, the blank time value money calculation spreadsheet and the in-class time value money calcs 2, those are the documents that we're going to be working from to do these. Okay, so basically, I'm going to give you 5 minutes, everybody 5 minutes to work on each of these, and then we'll go over them afterwards. So let's move on to number 2, which I just lost, in that, the one about the wonderful house that you found for $200,000, which is getting harder and harder to do these days. So work on number 2, and again, private chat me your answers when you give them, and if there's time left, I'll give you feedback or let you know if you are correct or incorrect.
Hey, what do you do if it's treating it like a text instead of a calculation?
You can go up to that, up at the top, there should be a place, you know, here. Can't
Yeah.
talk tonight.
It's displaying exactly what I typed in, equal PMT, and then I plugged in the numbers, and it's not giving me anything.
Okay, so if it's a text cell, what you're going to have to do is change, either use another cell or go up here, see where
Okay.
it says number, and you can change it to anything else you want. But if it was text and you entered it and you change it to a number, I think you have to re-enter it for it to know to calculate it again.
Okay.
So. Yikes. I'm not done. I need a minute. And that is a huge monthly payment, Mallory. Christopher, that is sorry, I am not. I'm just I'm not making fun. This is good though. I appreciate this. We have one answer that's $9.84 a month, another that's $12,600,000 a month. So
That was a typo, 984, not 9.
oh, sure.
I was trying to type a comma, but I was typing too fast.
Okay, sure. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to share my screen and show you what I did. All right, so basically I got two answers. One, which was Chris was almost right, although he didn't have it to the penny. $983.88 was the amount that it would be a monthly payment at 4.25%. So this is the ones where you work with a home loan. You just have to remember this. The amount of the loan goes in as a negative to present value, because if you think about when you're getting a loan, what are you walking into? Say that in a negative way. Getting a loan usually, or getting a home is a good thing. Attaching yourself to a big bank note, big bank loan is not always a great thing. So when you think about what you're doing when you get a loan, you're essentially saying, okay, I commit to the bank to pay back whatever the amount of the loan is. In this case, we're saying it's the value of the house, which is $200,000. So when you make that commitment, you're essentially on the hook with the bank for $200,000 unless you sell the house. So when you do these problems with mortgage payments and things like that, always think about the original loan amount as a negative present value, because that's what it is. You're putting yourself into debt to buy the house. So first part is the negative $200,000 as a present value. Then because, again, we're looking for a monthly payment here, we need to break everything down into months. And so we have the number of time periods is 360, 30 degrees times 12 months, or 30 years times 12 months. And then the rate, which I did both of these in here. The rate is just 4.25%. And then to convert it into a monthly rate, you just divide that by 12. So you do equals 4.25 divided by 12. It will give you this monthly rate of 0.35%. And then doing the PMT, so the PMT function was what we were doing here. We would have a monthly payment of $984. The second part of that question was what if the interest rate were 5%? So we're just changing one variable. So again, when you do these functions, you just link to the cells. And then all you have to do is go into one cell and change it, and it will automatically recalculate it. So I'm going to change the 4.25% to 5% and still divide it by 12 because we're still looking for a monthly payment. And that should change my monthly payment to $1,073.64. So you can see that even going from 4.25% to 5%, an increase of less than 1%, an increase of 0.75%, your monthly payment actually goes up by $90. So it's not an insignificant thing, a swing of 0.75%, or, you know, you might not think of that as a big thing, but when it's amortized over 30 years, when you're paying that over 30 years, it creates a good amount of additional interest expense. And so one thing I'll just throw at you right now, and this is just my personal opinion, if you're thinking, I don't know if I want to say this, I'll say it. If you're thinking about buying a home and have found one for a good value, I would try to close on that thing soon. I think we've already seen interest rates in the last 2 to 3 weeks go up on home loans, go up, you know, maybe 0.2 to 0.3%. And they're expecting them to go up significantly more at some time in the future. No one knows when. So if you are considering a home, and you found one that you like and it's good value, and you can get a fixed mortgage, which means your interest rate doesn't change over time. Don't go with an adjustable rate mortgage at all right now. Right now is the worst time to get yourself into an adjustable rate mortgage. If interest rates are expected to go up, you could get tanked in the future. So if you found a good house and you have a good fixed rate mortgage, I'd go ahead and pull the cord on that purchase sooner than later, just because you're going to be paying more interest in the future if you don't. So, little side advice there. So, all right, we got number 2 done there.
Hey, Steve.
Nice job, Chris. Yes.
Can you go over the rate, how I enter it in Excel again in
Sure.
C24?
In what was the last part there? Oh, in C24?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so whenever you want Excel to calculate something, you always have to start out with an equal. So you start out with an equal is your first thing, whether it's a function or you just want it to like I can press equal 1 plus 1, and it will give me, well, in this case, it'll give me 200% because that's a percent entry. But for this one, if you want it to calculate a monthly interest rate, you just start with equal, and let's say it's the 5%. Type in equals 5%, and then divide by 12, and then you should be able to hit enter, and it will go, assuming it's a numeric cell, it's in percentage or currency or something else like that, it should calculate it to 0.42%. Did that work?
It gave me 0%.
Okay, so go up here. You need to increase your decimal. So you see the 0 on top and the 2 zeros below it?
Yeah.
So click on that twice.
Okay.
When you have the cell selected. Did that change anything?
No, it won't let me change it.
Is there something that says enable editing at the top there? Wait, you should be able to change it. Can you share, actually, can you share your screen just so I can see? There's a, excuse me, at the bottom of the window, the Zoom window, there should be something that says share screen. And that should, yeah, just so I can see. All right, so let me see, 0%, you have net equals net, and so you've, yeah, that one, no, the other one, this one. I'm sorry, yeah, that one, there you go. There you go. Yeah, so the one with the 2 zeros on top and the 0 on the bottom will make less decimals, and the one that you just pressed, the one with 1 0 to 2 zeros, will make more decimals. So there you go.
Got it.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, so let's see here. All right, so let's go for full screen. There we go. All right, any other questions on number 2 there? Okay, let's move on to number 3. Number 3 is a bond question. So, and again, the first thing you want to ask yourself in any of these questions is, what function am I using? What is it asking me for, and what function gives me what I'm asking for? So in this case, Apple's selling a 5-year bond, pay $5,000 at maturity. If you're seeking at least a return of 4% annually, what is the maximum you would be willing to pay today for this bond? So let's just start out. Can someone tell me what function I'm going to be using for this one? No? George?
Right.
What do you think, George?
I was thinking future, but I'm not sure.
It's not rate, it's not future. It is, the key here is, what is the maximum you would be willing to pay today for this bond? So if you're just going to make a payment, if you're going to do something once, it's not going to be a payment. Payments are only things that you do over and over again, multiple times, right? Recurring things. So it's not going to be payment. And we're asking what you'd be willing to pay today. So if it's today, in most cases, you're going to be looking at present value, and that's what you're looking at for this. You're asking, what would I be willing to pay today? What's the present value of this investment given this other information? So that's what we're looking for on this one. Start you out with that. So let's take 5 minutes. I can find my timer. There we go. Oh, and by the way, the second part of number 3, those last 2 words in that second question should be 5 years, not 10 years. So $50 annual coupon for 5 years. Hey, Mallory, you might want to unselect your screen share. James is looking at your work. I can see your eyes under that baseball cap, James. All right. All right. I didn't get anything. Anybody want to shoot me an answer before we crank into this?
Yeah, again, Excel's happy to show me what I typed into the cell, but I'm like, that equal means you take those numbers and you crunch them together and do something with them instead of just, yep, you typed equal PV, blah, 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 blah.
Right. Yeah, one of the things I recommend if you're having problems with that is like select the cell before you type anything in, and then look above and just see what the format is and make sure it's number or one of the number. It can be general, number, currency, accounting. I think those are the four that should calculate things for you. So, all right, let me show you what I did here. Okay, so this one was about an Apple bond. By the way, the reason that Apple has to sell bond is because they're storing hundreds of millions of dollars in Ireland right now. They don't want to repatriate it to the United States because then they'll have to pay taxes on it. So literally they have hundreds of millions of dollars sitting in Ireland or offshore because if they bring it back to the United States, they'll have to pay taxes on it. What good corporate citizens they are, sarcastically. All right, 5-year bond, $5,000 at maturity. If you're seeking at least 4% annually, what is the maximum you would be willing to pay? So this is what I did here. This is a present value, and you get the 5,000 is the future value of that investment because you're going to pay 5,000 in the future in 5 years. And you're given an annual rate. So you don't have to convert any of this stuff into months at all. And so the answer for the first part of that question, without the coupon, which is the PMT part of this whole equation, is 4,190.64. And again, this number is negative here in brackets because this is the amount of money that you would have to invest that would be going away from you to actually buy this bond. The 5,000 is what you get back in the future, so that's a positive number. So $4,109.64 is what you would be willing to pay if you wanted to make at least 4% on this bond over the course of 5 years. The second part of the question asks if you had the same bond, but the bond also paid an annual coupon of $50, should have said for 5 years, not 10 years, then what would be the value? And so the only thing I have to do now to change this, if I want to see the difference between that bond with an annual coupon and without one, the first calculation through was without one. Now we're adding one. So all we do is put a positive 50 in payment. And that recognizes the fact that every year for the number of years that's in this equation, which is 5, you're going to get paid $50. So if that's the case, then what would you be willing to pay to make at least 4%? Because you're getting more money back, you should be willing to pay a little bit more. And so in this case, you should be willing to pay $4,332.23 to make 4% over 5 years when you get paid $5,000 at the end and $50 every year. Okay. So be familiar with these different types of bond questions with and without an annual coupon. I'll probably have one on the test next week, so just an FYI. So those are the two answers for number 3. Anybody have any questions about how I did that? Or no? Okay, let's take a break because it's 10 after 6 already. So we'll take a break and then we'll come back and we'll do this last one, and feel free to work on it at break if you care to. Number 4, and we'll work through that one, and then we'll do a little bit in chapter 6 to finish her off. So take 10. And I will be right back myself. All right, let's see. I haven't lost everybody. Just George. Okay. James, if you can hear me, we're back. All right, let's work on one more. This last one, I want to make sure that you guys have a chance to do an IRR problem, which is, I just told you what function you're going to be using, but the internal rate of return, which is if you see a question structured in the way that number 4 is structured, where we have 2 different projects that we're comparing and trying to figure out which would be the most bang for our buck. This will be an IRR problem, so equal IRR. And just to review real briefly, this is sort of the setup down here for how you need to have the information in your IRR. You need to organize, one project per column, right? Project X and project Y in this example. The first entry right under each of those has to be the investment, the initial investment for the project, and that will always be negative. Again, if you're investing money or sending money away, that's going to be a negative number. So the first entry, the top one, will be the investment amount, and then after that, you put in the successive years' earnings or returns on the investment, which would be these, all of these numbers here. So, so basically, the question is asking, if these were the investments, 3.5 million for a fish processing facility and 2.25 for expanding logging operations, and these are the returns that you would get from those investments, then which one has a higher average rate of return? So that's what we'll use for IRR, or that's what we use IRR for in this example. All right. Any other questions before we do this last problem? All right, 5 minutes. James, we're working on number 4 now, which hint is the internal rate of return function. And by the way, you can't just copy and paste that the graph, or excuse me, the spreadsheet portion from that Word document, because it's a picture. So you actually have to type in the numbers. Somebody tried to do that last time. right. There's the charming stargaze bell, which I'm very glad I don't wake up to in the morning. Anybody have any numbers they want to shoot at me? My chat box is empty. That usually leaves me very sad. Oh, no. I'm going to be very sad. Okay. All right. I will share my work here. That's not my work. It's my email. Okay. Here's what I did for this particular problem. So we got all this information up here. Obviously, the main pieces of information are the amount of the original investment and then what the returns are going to be from that investment. And we're comparing those returns together. So this is how I set it up. And again, I'm just using this blank time value of money calculation spreadsheet. And I just changed the titles for project X and project Y and then put in the numbers underneath there. So for each of these, the initial investment has to be the top entry, the top row of, because that's the furthest back in time. So you basically, this list goes from year 1 through year 5 chronologically. So you can think of the initial investment as the first point in time. And then after year 1, this is what we're going to have in year 2. So it moves forward. And if you switch up these amounts in any way, then it's going to change the internal rate of return for these problems. So you need to make sure you get both the investment in the first place and then enter the returns as the years progress from earlier to later. And so I just put in, for instance, the fish processing facility at negative 3.5 million was the initial investment. And then the returns were here. I just entered them in order: 800, 950, 950, 900, 900. And then calculate the IRR here. And this is, if you, first of all, you have to get them in the right order to get the right answer. But once they're in the right order, this particular function is really easy because all you have to do is type in equal IRR bracket, just like we do these other things. And then it just says values. So what you have to do, and this is why it's important to keep these in the correct order, you're just selecting, you're starting with the initial investment, select that, and just drag it down to select all of the cells. So you want to start the initial investment and drag it down until you're selecting all the returns, and then you just hit enter. And that will give you a calculation based on those entries. You do the same thing for the logging here. It has a different initial investment and different cash flows after that. But you use the same equation, IRR, and then you select the cells, and it will give you the average annual rate of return. So just solely based on financial performance, the preferable option here is logging at 9.07% versus fishing, which only gives you 8.89% a year. And as I mentioned before, in the real world, there are going to be other considerations than financial considerations. And so this will just be one aspect of evaluating projects against each other. You know, there are also considerations, obviously, for mission fulfillment. You know, how does this project help fulfill the mission of whatever organization you're in? Do you have enough can you raise enough initial investment cash to actually make one of these projects work? So maybe you're only able to raise $2.5 million, and at that point, then no matter what these percentages down here are, you sort of have to rule out the fish processing facility because you can't come up with $3.5 million for it. And so that, you know, that's another consideration. There are obviously political and social considerations too, but we're just looking at financial considerations here. So in this case, logging would be the best option, just based on finances. Any questions about how you use that IRR function, internal rate of return? No? Okay. So I'm going to strongly encourage everyone to do all of the time value money assignments prior to the test. I think you need a little bit more work on them. I know you need a little bit more work on them. Usually when I write the test, I will try to, you know, if it's a 2-hour time limit, I usually try to make it around 5 to 7 minutes per question that you'll need to. Obviously, some questions, informational questions, can be quicker, and the calculation ones, these ones will be longer, but on average 5 to 7 minutes. So as you're doing your assignments, you might just time yourself just to see where you're at. Obviously, you want to get the right answer first, but then you also want to make sure you can do it in a relatively timely fashion. So I would practice that. Okay. All right. Yes, Chris, they would have been both 9%, but if you add the decimals, then that's what gets you to your choice. So just add the decimal places, and then you'd see one was 8.89 and the other was 907. So I just saw that. Okay, one more. I'm going to cover one more thing real briefly here, and then let you free to the world here. I want you to understand just the concept of interest rates and the different components that go into determining an interest rate. And Chapter 6, I think, has a great way to look at this, and maybe it's great for me because I like equations, math equations. They help me make sense of things. But there is an interest rate equation that they have in Chapter 6 that I think is helpful in just looking at the different components involved there. And I think under week 8 in Canvas, third link down under resources is Chapter 6 interest rate equation -1. If you want to open that up or not, I'm going to display it on my screen here in just a second. That's what I'm going to be working from here. So, okay, so perfect. All right. So this is a quoted interest rate equation. And so I just want to briefly go through these variables. If you look at this as an equation, all it says is that the quoted interest rate is R. So that's what that's the quoted interest rate. To get to R, we use these other variables, and we essentially just add them up like you would any other equation. So this could be, this equation could be A equals B plus C plus D or whatever. And all we're doing is we're adding up the variables on the right side to give us a total quoted interest rate on the left side here. And so I'm not going to actually ask you to do math to calculate these things, but I do want you to understand what the different components of a quoted interest rate are. And so I'm going to just go through them conceptually and by definition here. And that's what I'll ask you to know. I think this is just the important part. This is one of the important parts of it. So we're trying to find a quoted interest rate. And so if you think of yourself as a bank here, and you're looking to loan money out to individuals and businesses. And so the question is, so how do I determine, what sort of interest rate I should offer these folks? And that's where these variables come in. So I'll start with R star. It's hard to see here, but this is R star. And R star stands for the real risk-free rate of interest. And in the United States, actually probably throughout the world, the real risk-free rate of interest is essentially a very short-term U.S. Treasury bond. So what this means, R star, it's like if you could find the safest investment in the world that really had no risk whatsoever, then what would the interest rate that you would be earning on that be? And so right now, a real risk-free rate of interest is a very short-term U.S. Treasury bond, a 3-month bond, let's say. And I haven't looked at them lately, but I believe they're paying like 0.2 to 0.3% interest as the real risk-free rate of interest on one of those bonds. So that would be one component. That's the first of 5 components that we have to think of. And all we would be doing here is say adding these variables up to get to the quoted interest rate. So we have R star. We have, I'm not going to pay attention to that. I'm just going to go through these up here. IP stands for the inflation premium. And what that is it's the expected rate of inflation over the term of the loan. So if you're looking for a 30-year loan, or I should say, if you as the bank are looking to offer a 30-year loan, then you have to consider what the expected inflation rate will be over the next 30 years, average per year. There's no right answer to that. Nobody knows. It's just, you have financial analysts working on these. They look at the bond market. They look at what's going on with debt levels. They look at what's going on with the economy, and they have some estimate of what they believe the average inflation rate will be over the course of the next, especially 30 years. Obviously very hard to predict. And so they will put some number on there. And let's just, for argument's sake, put 2% on there. Let's say that people expect that the average inflation rate over the next 30 years will be 2%. So we now have, let's say, 0.3%. Here, I'm actually going to put this over in here. Let's say we have, let me make these text boxes. So we're going to say we have R star as one. We have inflation premium as the second one. So R star, we said, would be about, I'll make these all percentages over here, would be like 0.3%. That is not what sometimes when you type in like 0.3 in a percent, it will give you 30%. So then you just have to type in 0.3 and put a percent sign behind it, and then it figures it out once you add decimal places to it. So we said 0.3% for R star. Inflation premium, we'll say we expect inflation to be 2% over the next 30 years. So that's the second component of that. DRP stands for default risk premium. And this essentially is the risk that you as the borrower, actually since you're the bank, it's not you as the borrower, you as the bank, what you determine the risk of the person who wants to borrow money from you defaulting on that loan will be. In other words, what percent or what chance is there that the person seeking the loan won't be able to pay off the loan at some point, or sell the house and pay off the loan if this is a home loan. And so the default risk premium there's all sorts of metrics and calculations that different banks use to assess either an individual or a company's risk level. But really, in the market for home loans today, a lot of what goes into this default risk premium is your credit score. So the higher credit score you have, the lower your risk premium will be, because you're seen as a safer bet. The lower the credit score that you have, then you'll be seen as having a higher risk level. So your default risk premium that they'll charge you will be higher. Because really what they're trying to do is they're trying to make money, and they're trying to determine how much risk the person seeking the loan is. The more risk that person is, the higher the interest rate. The less risk they're perceived to be, the lower the interest rate. So this is where your credit score comes in. So for a default risk premium, I'm just going to put in something like, 1%. Let's just put a number in there. So we have 1% default risk premium that's added to the R star and the IP. So far, we're up to 3.3%. For a quoted interest rate on this, but we haven't gotten to the last two. LP stands for liquidity premium, and the liquidity premium really means how easy is it for the bank, in this case, to turn this loan into money soon if they need to. So if they need to sell off this loan to get cash to be able to pay bills or invest in something, then there's a period of time that it takes them to get rid of that loan and to get cash in exchange for that. And so the longer it takes, the higher the liquidity premium will be, because it's harder to liquefy that asset into cash. The shorter period of time that it takes to turn that loan into cash for the bank, the lower the liquidity premium will be. So the shorter the period of time, the lower. So it's pretty easy for banks to turn loans. They typically package loans and then resell them on the bond market. And so when they do that, they essentially can cash out. So it's pretty easy. we'll just say ballpark, it's a 0.5% premium. And of course, these things are rounding. There we go. And so that's the liquidity premium. The last premium here is the maturity risk premium, MRP. And MRP is just, basically it takes into account how long of an investment or how long of a loan it is. The longer the period of time, the higher the maturity risk premium, because there's more, pardon my French, there's more shit that can happen in the next 30 years maybe than shit that can happen in the next 5 years. I guess I didn't need to use shit twice there, but I did, sorry. So the longer, a 30-year loan will have a longer or have a larger maturity risk premium than a 10-year loan, or a 5-year loan for a car. Will have a much shorter or much lower maturity risk premium because there's less time between now and then. And so less stuff can happen in that period of time. So in a 30-year instance in MRP, right? We'll just say it's like 0.75%. Okay. So, and again, I have to add these things. So we now have all these variables in here, and we can just, and this is just a technical exercise here, but if a bank were using these figures as their risk premiums for a borrower, all you have to do is add these up and add the decimal places again, and you come up with this final quoted interest rate. So this would be R. This is the, not R star, just R. 4.55% is what the quoted interest rate for a 30-year loan for that person based on these risk premiums. And again, risk premium is just in a, basically it's a percentage that a person loaning money or investing money will want in return for taking a particular risk. So whether it's a default risk premium, liquidity premium, maturity premium, all of these variables can be different depending on who's loaning the money. Some people have more tolerance for a higher risk, maybe default risk premium than others. And so these numbers will change. These are basically calculations done by the bank in the bank's favor, certainly, to try to estimate how much risk it is, and based on that risk level, how much they're going to charge in interest for a loan. Okay. So from a conceptual point of view, does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions about how that works, or how this equation is represented, or about any of these variables that I just talked about? So this is on page, I can't see, 189 there. Whoops. So you can look at both this equation, and then on this page and the one right after it, it has definitions of what all of these variables are. So really what I want you to know is conceptually, what do each of these variables represent? And I'm not going to ask you, honestly, to calculate an interest rate, although I think you should be able to based on this. But I will ask you some questions around these and what an inflation premium represents and where it comes from, and the default rate, and et cetera. So, all right, so no questions about that? Okay. I guess not. All right. So, and I will try to, I agree, Mallory. I should teach this stuff early on. What I'm going to do is hopefully this week, last week, for whatever reason, our class session, I recorded it, and then when I tried to convert it into the video file, it blew up and it wouldn't convert. So that's why we didn't have a recording of last week's class, which was the first time we went over time value money calculations. So it was a very bad timing for that technical glitch to occur. So this week I'm hoping to be able to convert and post this class session on YouTube. And I'll try to get the class session and the assignments for next week posted tomorrow for you. Okay. So again, the test for next week, that's all we're doing in class next week, is the test. It's going to cover chapters 4 through 6. And, you know, the financial ratio calculations, know those. Time value money calculations, know those. And again, the sort of the basic conceptual information around interest rates is really all you need to know from chapter 6. And then complete the native-owned, nation-owned enterprises module, because there will be an essay question on that. So that'll be next Tuesday. All right. All right. So this is my. So first of all, thank you for sticking it out this quarter. I know this is not an easy class. As much as I try to make it easy, I think the subject matter is just a little difficult sometimes. And the calculations, unless you're used to doing them, you know, just like anything else, take a little bit of time to master. So, but I do really think, especially chapter 4 and 5 are the key pieces of information, and the key calculations you can take from this class and use really to your benefit in the real world. So congratulations. Thank you for sticking it out this long through the quarter. A couple things just to let you know. So I will not be here next week, and I'm still trying to figure out who's going to be proctoring the test and how it's going to be given. So check your email by Friday. It'll be figured out by Friday. I'll send you all an email and let you know who and what the process will be for the test next week. And the reason I won't be here is because I'm leaving on Friday for Standing Rock for a week. So this was my schedule this quarter has been insane, and I've been trying to make this trip for a while, and I finally was able to figure it out with my boss when I could go for a week. So I'm going to be there from Friday to Thursday next week, and so that's why I won't be here for the test. I have little confidence that I'll have any sort of cell reception there. So that's why I won't be here. Again, if you were in class 2 or 3 weeks ago, you sort of heard my spiel on that whole thing. And it's just something that's personally important for me to do right now. So it's in its relation to this class. If you want feedback on any of this homework, I need to get it by, say, Thursday, because I'm leaving Friday morning. I won't be able to grade and provide feedback on any of it after I leave. So if you do want feedback, you know, and I would suggest that you work on some of these time value money calculations, and, you know, if you have questions, send me email, obviously, in the next few days. But if you get it done, submit it, and if I get it by Thursday, I'll grade it and at least give you feedback, and hopefully that'll be helpful for next week. So I think that is, and again, like I said, I'll send an announcement out via email by Friday about what's going to happen with the test on Tuesday, and who's going to be working with you to get that completed. So, all right, that's all I got for tonight. Thanks again for a good quarter. Hopefully you got something out of it. Hopefully it wasn't too painful. You know, it was a little painful. But yeah, I hope it works, provides, you know, good tools in the future. So that's all I got. Anybody else? Speak now or forever hold your peace, or at least for a week.
Will the in-class work be on Canvas?
Yeah, so it will either be on Canvas or it will be emailed directly to you. You mean the like the test next week?
Oh, no, the stuff we worked on today.
Oh, thanks for reminding me. I will save my Excel spreadsheet, and yeah, I'll post it along with the class video week 8 answers. So that, yeah, if you want to review it, you can do that. Was that what you were asking?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I will. I'll do that before I leave tonight, and I'll save it and then I'll post it tomorrow. So it'll be on probably under week 8. So, yeah.
You gonna be at
Thanks,
campus
Steve.
tomorrow?
I will be at campus tomorrow. Yes, until about 2. What's that?
I don't have no classes at all tomorrow, so maybe I'll just try to find you and talk about next week.
Oh yeah, about scheduling that. Yeah, actually let me figure out what's going to happen with the test, because it might even be easier depending on how it's going to be distributed. It might just be an email thing, but I got to figure that out. So let me get it figured out, and then I have your number, and I'll text you or get in contact with you one way or the other. Okay, cool. All right, have a good week. Good Christmas break. And yeah, I will. The other thing, as far as grades go, let me think about this.
Is there going to be a curve?
Yeah, there will be a curve for sure. But the grades won't be, I can tell you this right now, the grades won't be posted by the time they're due in JIX. Mallory knows what I'm talking about. So, because I won't be here. So they'll be graded probably by the 14th or the 15th. And then I have to paper submit them, but I'll email everyone their final grade and their test grade just directly to them, but it won't be until the 14th or 15th. So if you get like a report card that has, I don't know what even they put it, WIP, which is work in progress or something like that in there, ignore it. I'm going to be submitting these grades after that, and so it will be reflected after that. So that's another heads up. Make myself a note to do that. 14th.
Do you think I can get an email of that from you?
Of
My school scholarship and my tribal scholarship requires we turn them in at the date, and if not, then I'll get put on probation or I won't get funding for next quarter if it has like incomplete or whatever grade.
Oh, really? Do you know when they check it or when they want that
I
information?
have to send it to them the day the quarter.
What's that?
Or the day the day the grades post.
Oh, really? Okay. So yeah, I will write an email or something about that. So
Yeah, I can send it to her and I should be fine.
yeah, and if I need to
that.
send, I was going to say, if I need to send it to them directly, why don't you just provide me their email address and I can do that too. I don't know if they want it. I assume it's probably fine from you, but
yeah,
if it's a letter, they might say, well, how do we know it's from you? So anyways, you might actually tell them the situation and ask them how they would prefer to be notified. And if they would prefer to be notified directly by me, then just let me know in the next 2 days, basically, and I can, 2 or 3 days, and I can get it to them. So by Thursday, basically. All right. Cool. All right. Well, thanks again. And yeah, as I said, I will be here until Friday morning. So feel free to email me if you have questions before then. And if not, hopefully I'll see y'all down the road. All right. Have a good night. I'm going to go fall asleep now. See you guys.